Hi there, folks. Simon here. Welcome to the 2023 TAC Intermediate Open Tournament. This is Game 2 between nitzel and GladiatorSum. You can see the results of Game 1 right here on the screen. That was nitzel coming out on top as white, and very close game with a very sneaky throw and very low on time. Both players really really close there. That was a lot of fun to watch there and a lot of fun to commentate. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that out. Now we are jumping right in. This is going to be played just the same way on a 6x6 board, 15 minutes on the clock with a 10-second increment, meaning 10 seconds gets added to your clock after every turn. Also, we're playing with 2 komi, meaning that 2 gets added to black's flat count score if the game does not end in a road. So, we are good to go, ready to jump in. These 2 players, I gave them an introduction in the previous video, so we will skip that and jump right into Game 2 in this 2023 Intermediate Open Tournament between GladiatorSum and nitzel. GladiatorSum in white, nitzel in black. All right, and here we go with the adjacent corner opening, different than that. Okay. So GladiatorSum going for this mirrored opening, which we haven't seen very often, not since basically the 2021 TAC Open, and even then we were seeing less of it. But this is sort of an older opening, and I find it fascinating that GladiatorSum is going for this because this is the opening that nitzel is most familiar with. nitzel even talked about this recently because he'd taken sort of a hiatus from TAC for a while, came back and was like, wait, nobody's doing the mirrored opening anymore. I'm not seeing anybody do that. What's going on? And this is basically the mirrored opening. So, so we're seeing it now. And I don't know if that was such a smart decision on GladiatorSum's part. He probably didn't see that message. But he's playing the mirrored opening that nitzel's familiar with. Black comes right across with that capstone, just as we expected. And this mirrored opening we do talk about in the openings video of TAC University. It was very prevalent at the time of the video, so it definitely shows and was definitely covered there. Now, Black's capstone placement was great, follows a lot of the guidelines we talk about in the capstones video of TAC University as well. White's capstone, not so much, but still not in a terrible position. I'd say black is in a great spot right here. White also still has a lot going for it as well. So I definitely would not count either player out right here. I do, however, think that I would lean slightly more in favor of black in this position. I really like what they've done, setting up this horizontal threat here, getting this flat in at f5, able to work towards with e5 or with f5 minus, able to come down with an e3, f3 if they need to, kind of going for this horizontal threat. I think that it works out really well for them. One of the things that white can do to stop that is come up with c2 onto c3, and then eventually up onto c4 to really shut down black's connection to this left half of the board with that black capstone. That is one of the ways to do that. Not sure if they'll do that any point in this game, but it is one of the ways to do it. Now, GladiatorSum taking his time trying to figure out how to respond to this. Going to be dropping the flat here at e5. I think that's a smart way to go about it. Black might drop a flat here at e3. It wouldn't be very smart here, I don't think, to drop an f5 minus. Making that flat on flat capture, it's a little premature for that. You definitely want to avoid those flat on flat captures until you actually really need to make them, because they just create liabilities later on down the road. And that can be a real problem for you if you're not careful keeping track of those things. So black does drop a flat here at e3. I think that's a really smart play. It kind of protects this e4 spot, also keeps white from making the threat there, and black can place now at f3 and make that anchor point to this right hand half of the board and go for this horizontal threat. And they would have momentum and be ahead of white in that regard for the horizontal. Because white can play also at f2 to go for the horizontal, but black's one move ahead of them. White dropping a wall here at b4. Now that is just ready to come to the right onto c4 here to really shut that down. That's a smart way to go about it. But it does potentially cost you in terms of flat count differential, dropping that wall there. You're already going to be a little bit behind on flat count because of the 2 Comey that black gets, and you know, who knows if that wall's worth it at this point, or if you should have just gone up with that capstone. Interestingly, white comes down with the flat first. Now here, if I'm black, I'm going to fill in at e5. No, doesn't do it. Plays at b6 to make the tack threat. I think filling in at e5 would have been better than making the tack threat. Interestingly. I think that would have worked out okay. But this is a threat. And that's a more immediate threat than filling in at e5 would have been. So white does have to do something, make a capture here. I'm thinking this capstone might come up. The wall could come right, or it could come up. Right is a much stronger move, I think. But the wall coming to the right makes a lot of sense. So you get this wall coming over on to c4. Black then fills in here at e5, and that makes another tack threat. That's exactly what happens. Now, white can bring the wall stack up. And I think that works out fine. And if the wall stack comes up, black might just fill in. Or make some sort of capture here, something like that. I don't know, there's a lot of ways this could go. But this is a threat that white has to defend against right now. Oh, instead white comes down with f6. Interesting. Now, that makes a little bit of sense too, because now you've got white kind of going for this vertical as well. So playing up at f6 would be good for white, which means black probably wants to play up at f6. If black plays at f6, black can win a capture war on f5 and liberate those captives there and make a strong stack to be able to spread all the way left for a road or spread down to just really make a nice strong impression there and get good positioning for later on down. Instead playing down at f2, and I guess that's to stop white from going for too much of the horizontal or vertical here, but white can still do that. White still has the opportunity, so they're building across like this. And it'll work, because white can take this flat up to make that connection. And then if they do that, white would need to play something sort of like down here to stop black from going like that. But white instead plays down below at f1. Really just focusing on placing flats, and I think that's really smart here. You do want to just be placing those flats. Now as black, I think I want to play up at f6. I think f6 is my play as black. Then I'll come down with it. So if white plays after f6, if white plays somewhere like here, black could go like this, renew the tack threat. And if white captures up, black captures here, and that's another tack threat right. A lot of lines. But black plays over here instead, and I guess the idea is to play here for another tack threat. So playing at b4 is another threat going like this, because the capstone comes down. So I do like b4 as a play here as well, if he goes for that. He could also play at a3. Oh, but instead he comes down with a capstone first. That's even smarter, because now he can play at either a3 or b4. The issue with that is now he doesn't have the capstone ready to capture onto this e4 position. But he does still have a decent spot here. Yes, this wall could come down, or that capstone could come up, and that's what happens. Now, I think here is where you drop at f6, but black instead fills in. Okay, filling in another threat. So he fills in here because now he can take e5 left and make that threat, or make that road rather. So this is a threat here. Now, if white does capture right with the wall, black can smash and not lose. It is possible because he would not be leaving behind a road threat. White instead comes up. Black may decide to fill in here or here. Fills in at c4. Another tag threat. White could come up with the capstone, but if he does that, oh, drops another wall. Had to drop another wall to keep all these captures from happening, building up all those liabilities. Okay, from here, where does black shift gears to? They could decide to play down at c6. Or sorry, c2. My bad, not c6. c2. They could decide to play up at c6 as well. But I think c2 is the better play, and they do go for that. Because white was clearly wanting to make a threat like that. But instead, we get black playing there at c2. White may decide to drop at b2, a2. Black still has the opportunity to come around here for a vertical. Yeah, so at this point, black might just want to drop at a2 to cut off the threat. So you got 10 flats for white showing right now. And you got 14 for black. Black's definitely ahead when it comes to flats. But now we've got the D1 placement. And I think the idea behind the D1 placement is that if white plays here at A2, black then takes that flat and moves it to the right onto D2, which cuts off the horizontal line. Black probably now wants to drop a flat up here at E6. Because this is not a threat from white. They're building towards one. I think a flat at E6 is good because that works out for black, because when black does eventually go like this, that makes a road threat for black as well. Black could also decide to make a capture onto E4. Black would win any capture war there. But I think probably wouldn't want to do that until after C2 to the right. Does play at E6. Okay. Setting that up. Not a threat right now, but it will be soon. like this. I like this. This is a fun position right now because both players are really close to making roads. And so it's that knife's edge of play. Like, who's gonna make the first mistake to really throw themselves at their opponent's mercy here? Because that's all it takes when you're this close to winning. All it takes is one small mistake. So white plays at a2. I don't know about that. Black comes right, d2. This is now attack threat. Black can come up with e3 or come right with d4. Either one of those is a road for black. Now, we did see in the very first game of this match, Nitzel did win as white. So if GladiatorSum wins as white, they will have to do a tiebreaker match where they will have to play blitz. Now, if Nitzel wins this as black, they will not have to play a tiebreaker match as blitz. And so the blitz tiebreaker match, those rules are they play with a 3-minute timer with a 5-second increment. Everything else is the same. And they basically just play 2-game matches until one person wins both games in a match, which can go on for quite some time. But typically, it's only 1 or 2 matches. So white makes the capture up at top, d6 to the right, capturing, cutting that off. Black can fill in now right here at d6 and renew the threat. And I wonder if that's what he's going to do, or if he's going to make something else happen, like come down onto e4 or something else. Cause I like d6 personally, but I also like the opportunities that he's got of capturing onto e4 here and making something happen with those. I don't think this one is what he wants to do. I think if anything, it's going to be this or this, but he does play d6. This renews the threat. Again, able to come left with e5 to make that road. What do you do as white here? I guess as white, you could come up. You can't come right with the wall. That doesn't work. You could come up with e4. You could come left with f5. Beyond that, I mean, you could also come down, I guess, with e6. You could come left with e6, but that's just thrashing at that point and builds up a big spot there that black would be able to reach. So he does come down with e6. At this point, I feel like you almost have to be dropping a wall here at e6. Like, you're basically forced to at that point. Not actually forced to, but it's just such a good move that you almost have to do it. And he does do that, places the wall, ready to come down onto e5. White wants that stack nowhere near black's wall, so may decide to try and run with it. But to where is the question. Could decide to just bring the whole thing down. Would lose a capture war against it, but would also break up black's ability to make a threat with it, because now this wall is here. It stops black from being able to spread upwards in that direction for a road. So yeah, a lot going on, but I do really like that wall placement. I think that's really important to drop that there. We do talk about the wall placement like that, specifically using walls offensively in the walls video of Tank University. And sort of when's the best time to use them, how to use them properly, that sort of thing. Because it's easy to get bogged down into using these walls in just these purely defensive methods and just dropping them someplace to cut off your opponent from doing a road. But when you can make your wall placement in a good spot so where you can use the wall to make your own threats, that's when things get really good. That's proper use of a wall. And the previous TAC champion, Fwib, he was a big proponent of using offensive walls and was always talking about how people needed to use them more and that they weren't doing them right. And I believe people have since learned how to use them more and do them right in the upper levels, especially Ali, who eliminated Fwib in that TAC championship tournament that we had not too long ago. So we definitely have GladiatorSum taking quite a bit of time on this turn here. Notice that GladiatorSum is down to 6.5 minutes on the clock here, whereas nitzel is above 11. That is a 5-minute buffer between these two players on their clock. That is a lot of time. All right, so if I'm black here, I probably don't want to make the capture yet. I might want to place. No, I want to make the capture because I don't want to place and have that that stat get away from me. So I'm going to make the capture now. And then whatever white does here, I'm going to make a placement either at E6 or at D5. Either of those things will give me a road threat. Will it give me a road threat? No, I don't think it is a road threat. Oh, well, so, yeah, my bad. D5 is a road threat. E6 is not a road threat. Yes, that is correct. Not a road threat. But D5 is one. So white probably wants to play at D5 to keep black from doing that. Then what happens if he does do that? So if white plays here at D5, if I'm black, I'm going to play at E6. I think that's the play I go for, is the E6 play. But white, I mean, this isn't a threat right now. So white could also drop a flat here at C2. Now hear me out on this. White drops a flat at C2. No matter what black does on the following turn, white takes that C2 flat and brings it to the right. Or, even better, brings E2 left. Now, why is E2 left even better? No, actually, hold on. Yeah, I think they're both equal in this regard. Maybe. So the reason I was thinking E2 left is better is because then if black brings the capstone down, then white has a road, right? But if C2 right happens, black can't bring the capstone down because then white throws their capstone all the way to E3 and makes the vertical road. So not too bad of a spot there for white. White does drop at C2, is making that play. Really, really smart play here from GladiatorSum dropping at C2. I didn't think he would make that play because it's such a risky move here. But he did finally get some breathing room where black didn't have Black didn't have that tack threat running that he had to defend against at this moment. He just has to worry about what Black's going to do next. But at this point, it's looking pretty good. So now what White needs to do, or what Black needs to do, is figure something out, some sort of response to whatever White's going to do next. Because if Black makes some sort of threat by placing up here at d5, he knows White's going to be capturing with something onto d2. And he'll have to have a response for that. Or he'll have to go in a completely different direction. And so my thought is his response to this is going to be to take this stack and bring it all the way down to e2. Because that messes him up and also makes a road threat. Or no, it doesn't make a road threat, but it does mess him up. And really complicates the board a whole lot more. Now, typically, I'm a big fan of complicating the board, making it really messy, especially in the end game or the mid game. I like to really mess things up and make things just really complicated. The reason it's great for me is because typically I have a whole lot more time than my opponent, because I play way too fast, and that gets me into trouble a lot of times. But me playing really fast means that often my opponent will be very low on time, and I will have lots of time. So if I make the board really complicated, my opponent will have less time to think about what moves to make in this complicated board state than I will. So that is definitely something to think about when you're playing is, okay, if I make the board really complicated, the person with low time is going to have a harder time of things. So White does decide to capture right with this wall. Black can now come down with either the whole wall or partial wall or whatever, this stack, and come down onto e4 or beyond it to make this threat. I don't mind it at all. I think that coming down with the wall here is still a really good play. Now, I kind of like coming all the way down. Like all the way down with it. Like all the way down here. That seems kind of fun to me. But I might just be crazy. Because if you did that, you wouldn't have to worry about this wall being thrown to the right, because it can't, because it would leave a road. Same with this one. Because you'd be leaving the opportunity to just place here for a road or to make these captures. But I don't know. It is a tough one to think about for sure. If you're wondering about these messages here off to the right by Climates, these are actually from the previous game, so don't need to worry about those at all. White is down to 3 minutes even on the clock, whereas Black has 8 minutes. So a 5-minute buffer is quite a bit. Quite a bit to work with there. Let's see what he decides to go with. He's probably using up his buffer time because this is a pretty pivotal moment in the game. And Black's in a really good spot. That wall stack is just so strong. So strong. I'm not sure what the best move is here for White. I think that it might be to actually come over with c2 right. But I'm really surprised Black isn't spreading down Yeah, he should spread down. Like, absolutely should be spreading down to e2. But he is taking a lot of time here. A lot of time to make that move. And he may not make it at all. He may do something completely different, which might be better. It might be worse. I have been I have been wrong once, maybe twice. All right, but taking a lot of time here. I mean, we made note of the time that he had, like 11 minutes or something before, and then 8 minutes, and he's got 6.5 minutes left on the clock. He's been taking several minutes, like 3-4 minutes at least, on this one turn. Oh, instead decides to drop a flat at d6. Now, I was thinking about the flat at d6 previously because it does go for this horizontal threat. I didn't feel like it was that strong, though, because he still has no tack threat right now. And I'm not sure that fortifies his position any more than just coming down with this stack would have. I guess it makes it so that if white does come to the right here, black can make this spread and still retain a threat, this time in the horizontal instead of the vertical direction. White dropping a flat at c1, I feel like, is a very risky move to make here. As black, I'm also tempted to just come down with 3e5 minus. So the top 3 would give me a lot of leeway with this stack on e4. And I'd be able to go left or right to make the road. I'd even be able to go down to make a road, I think. No, not down to make a road, but left or right to make the road for sure. Oh yeah, also down to make a road. Yeah, that would work too. A lot of opportunities. If you just do 3e5 minus, like, that's about as close you can get to Tinue without it being Tinue. And it might even be Tinue. I couldn't tell you. It's too hard to to analyze that for me without using a scratch board like PTN Ninja or something like that to follow along all the different lines. But I feel like there's got to be Tinue here. Let's see, move 28. I'll have to look at that later. Because that seems really strong, is all I'll say there. Really, really strong. Still taking that time. Okay. All right. Okay, so that is a vertical and horizontal road threat. Is it Tinue? I don't think so, because I think that move stops both. No, it doesn't. That doesn't stop both. Does that move stop both? That move does stop both, I think. But it might be Tinue here. Nope, that doesn't stop it. Black can now come down with 1e5 minus for the road. Does take it. That is the win. That is the road. That is nitzel winning as black in game 2. And that means that nitzel is the winner of this semifinals match in this 2023 intermediate TAC tournament match. So I said match several times, doesn't matter. But congratulations to nitzel. Those were some great games, really hard-won victories there. A lot of fun to watch those games and to see such fun positions between these two players. I think it'd be really great to see these guys play again sometime, especially now that GladiatorSum is more familiar with tournaments. I mean, this is his very first tournament ever, playing against someone who's played in quite a few. 2 TAC Opens, 2 intermediate tournaments, even played in the TAC League, and even played in the Transatlantic tournament that we had. So lots of experience on nitzel's part, and I think we're only going to be seeing some even better things from GladiatorSum in the future. But well played to both players. Congratulations again to nitzel. But that is all for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtac.com or asynchronously in the Discord server itself. You can play just one move a day if you want to. Lots of great opportunities, lots of great resources out there. So be sure to check that out. And thanks again for watching. And until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.